Good morning, everybody. Happy Monday, and welcome to the Pijo Show. I'm excited to be with you today. It's kind of funny. I'm going to tell you um, what I've been doing this morning, and it's borderline ridiculous, but it ties right in to today's topic at the Pijo Show. We are going to be talking about your inner critic, and yeah, we're gonna be talking about that inner critic. And I don't even think of mine as an inner critic. I think of mine as a bully. Um, so that's what we're gonna talk about. We're gonna be talking about bullies. And it's interesting because of course I don't like bullies. Who says, yeah, I love a bully. No, I don't. Nobody really likes a bully, which is why I get so confused on why we have one living in our heads. Right. I've allowed a bully to live with me decades, for decades. And yeah, I just had a little inner battle with her right now. Like right before I got here. I have this whole thing to prepare for the show. I meditate and ground and open, and I release, and I do all of my meditation and centering stuff, my spiritual stuff. I get my room ready. I get the energy in the room ready. I play great music. I light all my candles. I burn all my sage. I do all that. And I did all that. I did it all. And I sit down and I was like, "Whew, I know what we're talking about. Thank you for the message. I trust. And here we go." And I sit down. I turned on my computer and was like, "Oh, I don't really like my shirt." So I went back into my room and I changed 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 again. And each time I would come back and do the sit test, and I'd sit down and be like, "Oh, no, not this one." I go back, maybe a jacket will work. So I love jackets. So I'll put a jacket on. That feels right and authentic. So let me put a jacket on. So I'd sit down and be like, "Well, why the hell are you wearing a jacket inside? I mean, that's kind of dumb. So don't wear a jacket. So maybe a different shirt, maybe a scarf. Maybe a scarf would help." So I went through this whole thing just recent. I mean, just like an hour ago. And the fun fact is I'm wearing the same shirt that I had on the first time. Isn't that fun? The only difference is I put on a necklace. Like I was like, and that's what I was wanting. I just want a little bit more sparkle, right? Like I got my shoes on, but y'all can't see them, and I just want to be a little bit more sparkly. So I added a necklace, and I did that last. Like I had this whole moment inside of my room where it was like, okay, Trish, I know what's going on. I know what's happening. You're a little nervous about talking about this topic. And I just loved on her a little bit. I just loved on her. I reminded her that she was safe because we are talking about her today. And she knows that. And she's like, "Oh, hell no. You ain't talking about me wearing that top." So I had to change a couple times. And then I had to have a moment to where I could get serious about what was going on and love on her for a bit. And that's what we're going to talk about. That's what we're going to talk about. Because as we know, you know, and look, here's the thing too. I have been through a whole lot of self-critic workshops, self-critic virtual learnings, self-critic. I read a lot of, Tame Your Inner Critic books. I've done a lot of work on my self-critic, on that inner critic. And everything was temporary. Everything that I did and everything that I tried was temporary. And she would always come back. And I didn't understand why. Why am I doing all this work? Just shut that bitch up. And she comes right back. I didn't understand it. And it's because I was treating only part of the problem. I was only working on part of the problem. And this is one of the pillars of the coaching that I'm training to do that my coach has developed. And it's the content versus the dynamic. It's the patterns on top of the patterns. And so the whole thought behind it is if you are only treating pattern, you're not ever going to heal the issue that's causing the pattern. And that's kind of up there talking. So I'm going to bring it back down to our level because we know that, as kids, we are taught, and, I'm a kid of the 80s and 90s. So I was taught by the after school specials. And they taught, you guys remember those on NBC? Oh, your local PSA, like your after school PSA. Oh, I loved them. They were cheesy and they were great. But like in those after school specials and what we were taught in school was how do you deal with a bully in your life? And we were taught to stand up to him, right? Like defend yourself. Stand up for yourself. Don't be a target. Don't, it's okay to be different, but also know that you might have to stand up for yourself. Um, and that is right it's correct in a sense, but what happens is if you are the target of bullying and you stand up for yourself, the bully might not target you again, but they're going to move on to someone else or someone else or someone else. And um, so that is when you stand up for yourself, you're taking care of the pattern. But when the bully moves on to someone else, you're not taking care of the cause of the pattern. And so, what do we know about bullies? What do we know is true about bullies? Are bullies acting out because they're mean and nasty? I mean, sometimes, yes. We're not going to make blanket statements here and say, absolutely, all the time, they're jerks. Boom, done. Sometimes they are. Sometimes they are. But the majority of the time, they are being bullies because they are being bullied somewhere in their life. They are they're feeling unloved and unworthy. They are scared. They are the victim of they are a victim. That can be a whole statement. There doesn't need to be a comma there. They are a victim as well. So when we apply that way of thinking to the bully that lives in our head, that inner critic that lives in our head and in our soul, then that means that is the part of us that is scared. That is the part of us that's sad. That is the part of us that is hurt or wounded. And so does that bully inside of our head, if we treat that pattern, right? Like today, if I were to say, you know what, Trish, your shirt is fine. Just sit down and do it, girl. You got this. You got this. I could have glossed over the issue. I could have totally 100% glossed over the issue of why I was struggling with my shirt because that's all I was changing. I wasn't changing my pants. I was just changing my shirt. So, um, when I when I first realized what I was doing, because sometimes we just act because we're used to acting in that way. And we don't even recognize the patterns that we're in because it's just the way that we do things. That's the way that we've built our current life is with the tools and the patterns that we are looking to shift. And so it took me a couple of top changes to be like, wait a minute, what else is happening here? Yes. I know that I want to get my shirt right because that's important to me. That's okay. I can own that. Like I want to look good. Who doesn't want to look good, right? So, yes, once I had worked through the okay, you want to look good, that's okay. But why is it coming out like this? Why are you also kind of being mean to yourself right now? Because I was also being mean to myself, right? When I would sit down and do my screen test. And here's the other thing that's happening right now. I have decided to I've been having a whole lot of problems with getting the audio portion of my podcast on streaming services. I've had a lot of issues with that. And so um I have decided to stop pursuing that and focus only on video. So that means you are only going to see me. And so I had this moment of if I know that that's the only way people are going to come to me is by seeing me, I got to start looking a little bit better, which is ridiculous. There was nothing wrong with the way that I looked before. But there was all this stuff happening, like everything was kind of brewing and manifesting in my closet. And so I had to take a minute. I had to first recognize, wait a minute, you're in this shame cycle here. Why are you in the shame cycle? What's going on, Toots? So instead of allowing that inner critic, that bully, who is also my inner child, that's who that is. That's little Trish. Instead of letting little Trish lead me in that moment of not being good enough, of my top not being right, of my top taking away the power of my message, when I sat with that and when I gave her the time and the space, when I recognized her, hey, Toots, what's up? Talk to me. I talk to myself all the time. I do. I have these beautiful inner dialogues with myself. And when I say it's a dialogue, it is a dialogue because me, big Trish, is talking with little Trish a lot, a lot. It's okay. We're meant to talk to each other. So when I can sit with her in compassion and ask her what is going on right here, right now. Why are we changing our shirt so much, honey? What's going on? What's up? What's up? I can get to the issue. We can come together in love and respect. She is heard. She is felt. I'm moving something here big. So thank you for being with me. Like when she is getting all of those things, all of those validation, all of that, guess what we can do? We can put the same shirt on that we have. We can add a sparkly necklace and we can come in here and we can sit down and we can do our job. And it's done. There's no shame in that. You know, there's no shame in that. It's taken me a lot of work to get here with you right here to tell you that story. And look, this is as real as it gets. This is what processing looks like. You know, when I've been in this work for so long, I wanted in the beginning, I wanted to know, well, okay, well, not even in the beginning, like when I really started getting the meat and the potatoes of it, I wanted a manual, which is weird because I hate manuals. Um, but I wanted a manual. Okay, so tell me what does this look like? What does this healing look like? Well, for me, it looks like just what I showed you. It's recognizing when I'm in a shame pattern because that's what I'm here healing in my lifetime is shame. When I am in this shame cycle, the shame pattern, why am I in that? What's going on? And so for me, it's having real conversations with myself and giving myself a whole lot of love, a whole lot of validation. That's my process. That is real life process for me. For you, it might look like something different. And that's great. That's why there is no manual. We're not IKEA furniture. We're not, we don't have this, okay, so you put this side in first and then you do the little wooden nail peg. Like we don't have those instructions because we're all different and we all do things differently. And that's exactly how we're supposed to be. But the way that we get to knowing ourselves, knowing why we have this bully inside of our head, is we got to look at all the stuff that we carry around with us. It's all in that baggage that we carry around. All the answers are there, are right there. All of it. And this is not Southwest Airlines, honey. Your bag, you have baggage fees. And the heavier the bags, the more they cost you. The more emotional and spiritual toll they take on you. And also a physical toll. Like here's something that's amazing. When I process something huge, when I move through something really big and I process it, and then for me, the visual is I take this out of my luggage. I physically I see myself removing it from my luggage. I set it down. I zip my luggage back up, and then suddenly it feels lighter, but I feel tired because I've been carrying something that's very heavy. So when I process something big, I'm tired and I need rest. I need, and I don't know how long, it could be an afternoon, it could be a couple days. Recently, I processed something a couple of months ago and it took me out for like 3 weeks. And that's okay. And when I say it took me out, like I just had to be really gentle with myself. I had to make sure that I was going to bed early, that I was giving myself permission to go sit out in the sun and read or do whatever I needed to do. Like self care was so important because I had just moved something through something really big. And that's part of honoring that process as well. Mhm. Yeah. So the solution to why you're being a jerk to yourself is in all that luggage that you carry around. And and to get into that luggage, you need tools. Like that is what helps you love on the inner critic, the inner bully. It's what allows you to give your inner child the healing and the loving that she needs is in that baggage that you carry. It's all the stuff that you're afraid to look at. That's where the real healing on that comes. Yes, it does start at the surface. We talked about that. Healing 101, like it gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. I couldn't have had the conversation that I had with my inner child, with little Trish. I couldn't have had that 6 months ago. It would have looked a lot different. It would have been like, okay, get over yourself. Let's get to it. It would have looked like Stuart Smiley from Saturday Night Live. Do you guys remember him? I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people love me. It would have looked like that for me. But now that I've done the work and I know why she flares up. I know why she starts to dance and demand attention. I know those patterns. So I know that she's pointing the way of something, like there's something here. Love her for a minute. So I do. I do. And I've done so much work on so many of those things that I carry. And they look like I'm not smart. I've thought for years that I wasn't smart and that I wasn't a good student. I mean, all the time, like always. I've never thought that I was a good student. And the reason why is because I did not really get good grades in school. I didn't. And then I had to take algebra a couple times. And when you're in a family of math people, numbers people, I mean, my stepdad was a physics professor, and my sister is one of the smartest humans I've ever met, and she gets everything. And I mean, comparison is the devil, right? I mean, it's a root. Oh, it's a joy stiller, but it's also a very human thing to do. So I um I felt inadequate next to them. And so I allowed myself to feel not smart. Is that their problem? Nope. Did they do that to me intentionally? No. 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 I've given my sister tons of stuff too. I mean, it's what we do. It's what we do, right? So I lived with I'm not smart. I don't get math. I don't get it. I don't get that stuff. And so that affected me in a lot of ways. It affected the college that I went to because I didn't think that I was smart enough to go to a real school. So I went to culinary arts school and I got a culinary arts degree. And then I did not finish college. I got an associate's in culinary arts. And then I dropped out my senior year uh, in the bachelor's program of hospitality management. And so that fueled all of that. I'm not smart, fueled all of that, fueled it every bit. And then I had a lot of work and a lot of healing to do on that. And it wasn't until I started taking ceramics and pottery, I started throwing pots and ceramics that I understood, like, wait a minute, I am pretty good at math and physics because that's all ceramics. Throwing pottery is physics. All it is. So while I didn't understand the equation part of it, the the classroom part of it, I absolutely understood the real life application of it. Could I have figured out like vectors and stuff? No, no. In fact, we have a joke about that. Like in my family, we were somewhere and we were actually at King's Dominion in Virginia, and we were there for Physics Day. So my dad had taken the physics team there to do all this fun physics stuff. And I had made a joke about they were doing something with vectors and they had to come up with like this fun experiment to do with vectors and figuring out vectors and stuff. And so I said, like, the only physics thing that I had was like, build a paper tower. And they were like, well, but it has got to do with vectors. And I was like, well, just put some vectors on it. And so that became a joke. And it became a joke for me too, right? Like, so if something was going on, we would just say, like, well, I mean, we could put some vectors on it. And it was like this hilarious joke, like, oh my God, we're so funny. The problem with that joke was that, and here's the thing, I fully participated in that joke. I owned it. I made it mine. I participated in it. It allowed me to fuel this portion of I'm not smart. I'm not smart. You are a joke. I did that to me. They did not do that to me. I did that to me. I did that to me. And so that is what I've discovered in my baggage. When I look at the things, and it's not what people have done to me, it's how I have acclaimed ownership of it. And like there are bad things that happen to people. And I'm not saying I will never, ever, ever say that you deserve the blame in anything bad that's happened to you. No one does. But when we're talking about these little daily woundings that we do to ourselves, we have done that to ourselves. And it just keeps us down. It just keeps us down. And so when we're looking at those things, right? Like that's how the healing begins. I've been through therapy for years, and so much of the stuff we've talked about was stuff that my biological father did, right? Like my mother and biological father, they got married really early, and he was not a nice man, and he was very abusive to my mother, and I saw that. And then finally, they got divorced when my sister and I were in early education years. And so we, I had a lot of work to do with healing from that. And I did that. But I had to have help with that through a therapist. I don't even know why I'm telling you guys this. But I carried that in my baggage for a long time. And so I was always confused on to why am I still carrying my dad's stuff with me? Why am I still carrying that? What's up with that? And it's because ultimately I needed to forgive him for being a jerk. And so how do you forgive somebody like that, right? How do you forgive somebody like that? And the way that you do that is the same way that you heal the person inside yourself for doing all the dumb stuff, right? You give them grace and you realize that they're doing the best they can. And so, and know that that sounds a bit weird. And that does not, and so when I say that, that does not excuse or condone any behaviors. It's not condoning it. It's not turning the other shoulder. It's not like, okay, it's okay. He's doing his best. Like for me, one of the other things that I carried around forever was that I was a shit employee. I was a terrible, terrible, terrible employee because I have been a terrible employee in the past. And so, how do you heal that? You extend yourself grace of, I was doing my best. And I've said this before. I've talked to somebody else about this, and we were having a conversation, and it was a great conversation. And they said, "Well, you hope so. You hope everybody's doing their best." No, no. I mean, and this is the big secret. Like everyone is doing their best. What you're seeing in people is their best at that moment. Now, my best today is going to be different than what my best was yesterday, and it's going to be different than what it is tomorrow. So I can't look at Trish in 2001 who was struggling and who was a terrible employee. I cannot look at her through the standards of Trish in 2021. Those are two different realities. Those are two different bests. So when I start to look at these things, to forgive myself for them, I have to extend that grace of I was doing my best. And when I do that, I can fully forgive myself for some of the decisions that I've made. That's how I truly healed from my dad. I had to come from a place of he was doing his best. I don't condone that because his best was atrocious. But that was his best. I also don't have to have a relationship with him because of that. And that is all okay. Here's the thing. I have to have a relationship with myself. I don't have an option. I do not have an option, which is why I got in so much trouble back in 2013 to 15, right? That's why I got in so much trouble then, is because I stopped having a relationship with myself. Stopped. I didn't want to have a relationship with myself anymore. I just wanted her to die. So then to get out of that, a lot of work had happened. A lot of work had happened. But I can tell you right now, that Trish in the mid 2000s, she was doing the best that she could. And I'm going to give her a whole lot of love and a whole lot of grace, because she was already kicking the shit out of herself. I don't need to do it anymore. I don't need to do it anymore. Have you ever done that? Right? Like, that just came to me. Like sometimes you're just like, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to kick some ass. Oh, yeah, I've been kicking ass all day. Kicking ass and taking names, girl. Here we go. And then at the end of the day, you think about, okay, I have been kicking ass and taking names all day. Let me see. Let me check out my list of names. And there's one name on the list, and it's yours. I've done that too. Right? Right? I was doing that this morning when I was getting with all my shirts and my tops. I was kicking my own tail. And then I was like, wait a minute. I don't kick my own ass anymore. So what's up? What's up, Toots? Let's talk. I hope this is making sense. I feel like it's kind of scattered, and I'm sorry for that. Um, but I'm letting you see in real life and in real time, right? So I want you to, if you could, if you're brave enough, I want you to look at ways that you bully yourself. And I know you're brave enough. If you're not brave enough, you wouldn't be listening to my show. Thank you for doing it. But just take a moment and write down the ways that you've bullied yourself in the past or you are doing so currently. Write them down. And then see the patterns behind it. When do I do this? Okay, so when do I do this? When do I think I'm a jerk? Or when do I talk down to myself? When is that? And then when you start to get the wins and the hows, it can kind of help you get to the whys. Because that was one of the things that I struggled with. Why would keep me in this destructive digging? I need to know why I do this. So I'm going to dig and dig and dig. And I became so focused on finding the why I treat myself the way that I do. I used it to continue to bully myself. Well, if you were smart enough, you'd found it by now. If you're working hard, found it by now. You're just not good at this. Have you thought about that? You're just not good at this. Keep digging, keep working. The motivation behind it was all punishing. So I had to go, I had to notice that. Okay, wait a minute. At the end of the day, the only name on my ass kicked list is mine. Why is that? I had to back off of that because why was destructive. And I had to attack it from, okay, how do I do this? How am I kicking my own tail right now? Change my shirts 8 times. Okay. All right. Yep. I've changed my shirt 8 times. Do I do this every day? Nope. I do it some days. I'm not gonna lie. Like there are some days when I'm kind of off that I change my outfit a whole bunch of times. And so, okay, when do I do that? Okay, I do it when insert when here. And then those those two answers help me get to, oh, and this is why. Little Trisha's feeling unloved and unvalidated and unseen. So what's up, Toots? Talk to me. Tell me what's going on. We got to get comfortable with talking to ourselves. We got to get comfortable with being quiet in the uncomfortable. Because that's really what's going on, right? I could have stomped around my bedroom. I could have. I could have refused to think about my dad. I could have put that in a box. I could have carried that around in the luggage like I did for years and years and years. I could have pushed down, I'm a shit employee. I could have pushed down, I'm not smart enough. Excuse me. I could have done all of that, but it didn't. I got comfortable with being uncomfortable. I was like, okay, so what's going on? Why do I feel not smart when I'm really pretty smart? I'm just a different type of smart. Why do I think that I'm a really bad employee when I've been a really good employee in the past? There was a couple times that I wasn't. So why am I letting that be my truth? Why is that? So once you start to get comfortable in that uncomfortable, you can start going through those bags. When you can start giving yourself the grace that I was doing the best that I could. An hour ago, the best that I could do was 8 changes. It's the best I could do. And that's okay. That's okay. Give yourself the grace. Give yourself that grace. You're doing your best. You know, Maya Angelou, what's her famous quote? When you know better, you do better. That's the truth. That's the truth. When you know better, you do better. So start extending yourself that love. If you feel like you're stuck, or you feel like there's things that you want to shift and change, or you feel like there's things in your baggage that you need to go through, but you don't know how to do it, shoot me a message. That's my job. I help people go through their luggage. I help people shift the things that they need to shift, that they want to shift, so that they can live a life full of love for themselves. That's what I do. My heart's beating really fast right there. Whew. So, let me know how this is going. I feel like it might be a long episode. Kind of felt like it got out from under me a little bit, but thanks for helping me. Thanks for like sticking around with me. Why don't we go on this Facebook page and y'all tell me tell me about times where you've been doing your best or in times that you've been bullying yourselves. Tell me about that. I want to hear from you. I love you guys so much. Thank you for seeing me today. Thank you for hanging in with me today. I so appreciate you all. XOXO babies. Have a super day. Bye.